Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's up?
Great to see your beautiful faces this Sunday morning. As always, we got the Sunday show selection showdown. This is where loudmouth we're going to go over our picks for Sunday's NFL games. Obviously, we're going to review Thursday and then kind of get into our picks. This is going to be a very interesting show because this is going to be our first COVID pick'em. That we have a team that's postponed and another team that is kind of up in the air at this point. Um, Unfortunately, we knew this was going to happen eventually, but I didn't think we were going to get hit with three different possibilities in this short period. But kind of is what it is. Obviously, as fans, we're just excited for sports and especially football to be back, but we'll kind of deal with it. But so starting from the top down, we got Sean for Off Top Rope, our WWE wrestling show, and across the wrestling industry. And then down at the bottom, the newly formed Off the Bounce with Dame and Zay. They're going to be running their show tomorrow night. And Sean's Saturday. I want to make sure I mention that. But like I said, this is going to be a good one. We have, I think I said before off the air, 9 consensus pick this week. We've been kind of hit or miss as a crew with those consensus picks. Especially Jacksonville has proved us wrong a couple times. I hope they don't prove us wrong again this week because I think only one person has Jacksonville picked, and it's going to be interesting. Before we jump into it, as always, go over to bombshellbowling.com/loudmouth sports talk. Hey, it's fall, especially up here in Pittsburgh. So get your hoodies. Most mornings it's like 50, 60 degrees. Get you your nice, comfortable loudmouth hoodie. Rep your favorite sports show on Facebook and YouTube. Also, we still have T-shirts going around, and they're absolutely comfortable. So check that out. As always, Miss Michelle's awesome with everything that she's doing for us, putting out great merchandise and just helping us with everything with ideas that we have, trying to get you guys geared to be able to rep Loudmouth Sports Talk. So let's get into this. I'll share my screen real quick so I can show this. So unfortunately, this week I didn't have time to do each individual graphic for each individual game. So we're just going to run it like this. Unfortunately, I'm going to have notifications. So again, we were talking about Thursday. Like Damien said, his was kind of a coin toss. Unfortunately, his came up as the negative of the coin toss. And I guess we flipped the coin right for the rest of us. Denver obviously took that game. For the most part, it was a very sloppy game. Neither team really looked good. But then Denver was able to take over and be able to finish with that. Jumping into our first slate of games, and obviously the schedule's been changed up about 6 times since Monday, with Pittsburgh, and then obviously now KC and New England being a question mark. But so Jacksonville is visiting Cincinnati. Everybody but Robbie has Cincinnati. My main thing here is I'm starting to gain faith with not only Joe Burrow, but that offense. And that defense is kind of coming around. And even though we continuously get proven wrong by Jacksonville, at least right now, I feel like they're doing not enough to really change me away from the product that Joe Burrow's putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow is going to be like that natural leader in the next couple of years. You're just going to see Cincinnati's just going to change dramatically with him because if they build around him, I think Cincinnati becomes very dangerous in the next couple of years here.
Yeah, they definitely have a product to build around there. So if they can especially build around the defense and give him a couple pieces on offense, it's going to be nasty for him.
If I had to pick, I would probably have to go with, I don't know. Right now, I have to go with just Jacksonville, just because I like Joe Burrow. I like what he brings to the table. But he honestly, and whenever it comes to when you need him the most in the game, he is crumbled under pressure, and that's just my honest personal opinion. So I will pick Jacksonville.
Cool. So this is another. I was honestly surprised that they didn't. I think they did flex Cleveland and Dallas. They didn't. But so this is another, like I say, highly anticipated game this week, just because both teams find a way to get in their own way. So obviously Cleveland's going to be visiting Dallas. Cleveland with that run game right now, and then especially with Kareem Hunt with that catch that he had last week was absolutely ridiculous. I had a ride with Cleveland just sheerly on that offensive run game, but then also the defensive pressure that they'll be able to use. They were saying that Tyron Smith should be back this week for Dallas, their left tackle, but I haven't seen anything definitive that he is 100% back. And again, unfortunately, Dallas is Dallas. Even being at home, they find a way to kind of stub their toe.
I'll probably have to go with Cleveland. Also, like I do like Nick Chubb, that run game. It's making a lot of stuff work. So a lot of times you've seen this season where Dak has pretty much like got lucky. Like you get, for example, the Falcons game. He pulled a rabbit out of the hat that game pretty much to save that game and bring them back. They had a lot of good stuff go their way, but a lot of time in the NFL, it's not always going to happen like that. So I got to go with Cleveland.
Yeah. All right. So then going from obviously down in Dallas, we're back up to Detroit and Motor City. New Orleans visits them. This game was almost another to be determined, but I guess the Saints players had false positives because I guess they cleared today, and the game is on as scheduled up in Detroit. At least right now, obviously, Detroit is Detroit. They're unfortunately struggling everywhere from top down. And even with, again, the questions looming around Breeze and his arm strength, and is he getting to the point that he's definitely on the backside of the hill versus still on the peak. We obviously all went with New Orleans on this guy. So that's going to be an easy one. Anybody else have any thoughts on this game?
I just think with like you were mentioning Breeze, so like I think like Kamara and the rest of the offense is kind of carrying New Orleans at this time. Just because if you like Breeze, I think Father Time's catching up to him. I think timing is a lot off than what it was like a few years ago. And like you said, that arm strength does not look as good as it did last year or the year before. So, I mean, you're looking at probably a struggle this year for New Orleans if you continue having Breeze as your starting quarterback.
I don't know if it's continuing. I completely agree with you, Sean, to almost a point. I completely agree that Drew Brees is struggling, but I think this Drew Brees struggling answered kind of like a universal question in the back of a lot of people's minds in the NFL. Did Mike T need Drew Brees more, or does Drew Brees need Mike T more? And you kind of figured out because whenever Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 and Mike Thomas still put up the numbers with what's it called, a backup quarterback, and then you see whenever he's out that Drew Brees is struggling now. You kind of see that like a lot of people when a lot of wide receiver battles were saying that, but what's it called? I'm holding off now because Mike T isn't playing. Kamara went off, so if they run the game through him because they aren't playing a Green Bay Packers team, a quality playoff team, so they might have a little bit more of an advantage and get a little bit more comfortable and win.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Again, it's going to be interesting once Mike Thomas comes back. I know he was in practice this week. I don't know if he's going to be available for games.
They already rolled him out. He was questionable, and then they rolled him out yesterday, I think.
Fair enough. So again, that's going to be the main storyline, especially going down the road for New Orleans. That and their defense trying to get off the field is obviously going to be another huge thing for them. Rolling into another consensus pick for us. Seattle visits Miami. Even though typically these coast-to-coast games usually weigh out a little bit different. I very rarely ever vote against Russell Wilson, especially since he does seem like he's playing with a chip on his shoulder this year, especially with again, everybody's saying that bringing up the MVP talks and stuff like that. But now that he actually has like a viable wide receiver core, and again, even with Chris Carson out, Carlos Hyde's been doing pretty decent. Okay, that's a bad idea. My bad. Anybody else's thoughts on this game with Seattle?
I think Miami will give them a game, but
I think it'll be close. I don't think
it's going to be Russell Wilson in this.
Yeah. So Russell Wilson's MVP season. He's proven a lot. Even last year and years before, he's put up like solid numbers. He still hasn't won MVP. So I think this is kind of like the year he's like, I got to prove my point. I got to make a statement. He plays. If you really look at Seattle, well, he has an all right offensive line. Wide receivers that were like are higher numbers, like because on DK Metcalf on another team might be a number 2 receiver. Tyler Lockett could be a number 1, 2 receiver on another team, depending on what team you are. What's it called? But I definitely like Seattle, and especially since the 49ers got hurt, they're banged up. I feel like this is their chance to honestly just run with the division.
Yeah. So another consensus pick we have, the Chargers are going to Tampa. Again, another coast-to-coast game. I had questions with this until I remembered that their other D end, Melvin Ingram, the other defensive end for the Chargers, is out this week. I actually think they put him on IR. So losing that other bookend, the Joey Bosa, and the other injuries to the Chargers defense, and even though I have high faith in Justin Herbert, and not that Tampa has a super strong defense, but they're still a decent defense. I couldn't break away from the pack and choose my Oregon Duck favorite. So it looks like we're going with Tampa across the board. Like we just said, I feel like all these games, for the most part, are going to be very close. But I just can't see the Chargers with that many dinged up stars being able to work this out.
I just see Breeze. I just see Brady picking apart that Chargers defense.
Yeah.
with it passing game.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, especially if you can't get pressure on them. I mean, there's not much else
Right.
you can really do.
They saw Mike Evans too, a 6'5" receiver, still a 1,000-yard receiver without a Hall of Fame quarterback. So now you add him. I feel like they can. I feel like they could definitely win this game.
Yeah. And then once again, another consensus pick. Baltimore drives all of like 5 minutes across the town to face Washington. Baltimore coming off of a, in my opinion, very rough showing against KC. Obviously, KC is a good team, but I was absolutely shocked with how Baltimore played. So I feel like coming off of that game, licking some wounds, I feel like they have kind of like an axe to grind and kind of something to prove not only to themselves, but obviously the NFL. Washington also has a very good defense. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Lamar Jackson's going to go off in this game.
Mm-hmm.
here's my thing with like Baltimore. Like I thought about it, and you said, with Washington having that defense, here's the only way I see Washington winning: if you contain Lamar Jackson, if you don't let him run, if you don't let him wheels, he can't throw. I'm sorry, he can't throw. His accuracy is not as good as people think it is. He's not that good at throwing the ball. So if you contain him and take his legs away, that's the way I see Washington winning this game.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I mean, Baltimore just proved it last week when you took his running ability away. He can't throw the ball.
Yeah. Hopefully Baltimore's defense kind of figured some things out as well.
Yeah, hopefully they don't have to they don't have to face a guy like Patrick Mahomes, but they'll be awake for the next time. I think that the key things that Baltimore screwed up on last week were, one, Lamar Jackson doesn't, with that arm, unfortunately, he's not going to be coming back from no 20-point leads anytime soon in his career.
Yeah.
Two, he took away his legs, but not also did you take away his legs, you took away the short throws. He likes those slants, those little hitches, those little receivers. Then you took away his tight. Most of all, too, they took away his tight end. So you made him to push the throws down the field, and he made mistakes. I also saw a mixture of probably his mistakes, but also there was a lot of throws. If you saw late, that touchdown throw that Marquise Brown dropped, and another throw earlier in that game where Mark Andrews dropped. I feel like eventually got to the point of bringing his confidence down, and then the mixture of that and the long lead, I feel like that probably just shot himself in the foot at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then we move to Arizona travels to Carolina. For the most part, obviously, we all picked Arizona. Sean is the obviously odd outlier. I especially since Arizona lost last week, and I feel like
they won last week.
Did they win?
They won by like 3 points. I think they kicked a field goal.
Oh, that's right. They came back. I lied. But Arizona, I don't want to say they've surprised me because, again, they added a lot of pieces. Or I guess added one big piece with Hop. But they've been playing very well from what I've watched. Carolina is still a big question for me. Just because, again, unfortunately, their bell cow with CMAC is out. Again, unfortunately, for a while at this point still. I still have to just ride with Arizona. I feel like they have that young dynamic, especially with their quarterback, their head coach, and a couple of their other pieces. And they not anywhere near like schoolyard, but like I feel like they have that mentality of, you doubt me, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah, this was a coin toss for me, actually. Like I had to toss the coin on this one, and Carolina was it. Even though they don't have C-Mac, they still look good. They still look contender. Like they're still going to give you a game. They could still pull wins out. So, like I said, this was a coin toss for me. it landed on Carolina. But I mean, at the end of the day, I still think Carolina will win this game with Arizona.
The Cardinals. The game over. D Hop, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's looking better. He got him a Hall of Fame receiver, and then and they're working. They're making moves. The defense is they're still young. So if you look into like Buda Baker, all the pieces they have on their defense, most of them are under the age of like 27. So you still got them, and some of them are on rookie contracts. So you got them for cheap, and they got not enough burn on their wheels. So I feel like Arizona is definitely going to pick Arizona.
Yep. So Minneapolis flies down to Houston. This one was an interesting pick for me because I feel like both teams are in that like twilight feel right now. And what I mean by that is like I feel like Houston had a close game with the Steelers. And they let that kind of slip out of their own hands. Minnesota was kind of highly revered coming into the season, even with losing Stephon Diggs. And I feel like they're kind of like shaking their heads, trying to figure out what's happening. But at least the reason I picked Houston is like I feel like Houston has just been on that edge. They've also faced their 3 losses have come by very good teams. And I think this week might be the time that they say, you know what, screw it. Let's make this thing happen. And with the difficulties Minneapolis is having or Minnesota's having right now with their secondary, I'm hoping Deshaun Watson goes off.
That's the only thing is Minnesota. I think that front line is going to get to Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be
that offensive line of Houston is all like this, and I think that's what's going to really carry Minnesota to win. Plus, when Houston played Pittsburgh, I really feel it wasn't Houston that was playing up to par. I feel it was Pittsburgh playing down to the competition. And that's the reason why Houston came so close in the winning lap. So that's the reason for my Minnesota pick. I still think their offense is that good.
I gotta go with the Texans, my man Deshaun Watson. He makes it work. I feel like he played 3 teams that are all what's called I'm pretty sure undefeated or have 1 loss.
Yeah.
In the first, he played 2 former MVP. He played MVP in the Super Bowl MVP and then the MVP. Then he played a returning Ben, which no one really had an understanding of how he was going to play. Like because he's still like his first 2 weeks back. And so I think I definitely gotta go with Houston. I like them. Deshaun Watson makes it work. That defense is not even that bad either. They're not like an elite defense, but like they're not at the end of the day, they're not scrubs.
Yeah, I still feel like it's like I still think Bill O'Brien is another guy that's like on a super hot seat right now. Especially for some of his off-season moves. But then unfortunately just the play right now.
So I think it is. I think because I was listening to this on this podcast on ESPN. They said Bill O'Brien coach good, Bill O'Brien GM god awful. So if you eliminate, I feel like after the end of this season you got to eliminate the. I feel like you got to give him 1 more year. You got to eliminate Bill O'Brien the GM and just make Bill O'Brien the coach and see because honestly last year they did have D Hop, but if they don't really have an offensive line, they still somehow won their division and beat Buffalo that first round.
Yeah. They definitely have some pieces. It's just getting a couple more pieces. And as we all know, it obviously starts in the trenches, and they still need to build that part. So then we move to the Giants flying out to LA. I don't think we need to speak on this very much. The Giants just are not very good, especially with not having Saquon. Daniel Jones is still trying to figure shit out, even with the amount of pieces they've put into that offensive line. They just can't. And right now, I feel like the Rams also have a chip on their shoulder of trying to prove that like last year was kind of just a dud, and that they're the same team that played in the Super Bowl not only just 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think the Rams should actually have a win from last week because of how screwed out they got from Buffalo. So they definitely have. They're definitely coming in with like a lot of anger because of the week.
I like the Rams again, like you said, Saquon, all that. John's not really working. I do like how the Rams are working. That running back by committee situation is really working out for them. Not just paying like one main guy, just have a whole bunch of fresh legs into it. Jared Goff's working. Even that offense is working more than I thought. They're taking more deep shots than I thought they were with that when they traded Brandon Cooks. Robert Woods is honestly playing better than I thought he would. He's played in a while, and honestly, I think. Yeah, they'll be a good. They'll be making noise whenever playoffs come.
Yeah. So then we'll go with the Indy game. So obviously a short flight for them. This was a hard one for me. I feel like this is almost the 1B to the Cleveland-Dallas matchup this week. Indy's defense has been playing very well, and the team for the most part, outside of Phillip Rivers, has been playing very well. That run game they've gotten going very well with that offensive line. Obviously, Chicago's been playing decent. They swapped Trubisky for Nick Foles. I wanted to say his goofy nickname, but I'm not. But they brought Nick Foles in to kind of save the game last week. This one I was kind of curious about because, again, is the legend of, again, Big Dick Nick the real deal? Or, again, how's it going to work out in Chicago? I mean, they did just lose another one of their they just lost Tariq Cohen and brought in like 9 running backs to try to fill kind of depth. So this one's interesting, but I'm going to rely on hopefully Indy's run game as I post Quentin Nelson's picture every week on Into the Trenches and typically this show. They just need to run the damn ball and rely on the defense, even with Malik Hooker out.
Here's what I think with Chicago, bringing in Nick Foles. Like, I look at Nick Foles like Big Dick Nick, whatever, like winning he beat Tom Brady, Super Bowl, all this stuff. He's not your starting quarterback. He's not a guy you go and say, I'm going to start you for the season. But he is a guy, if you're struggling, to bring in. He's a great backup quarterback. He's like having like that Charlie Batch that you can rely on to win football games, to get you through the playoffs, to get you possibly like I think that's all he's really good for, is just being that really great backup quarterback to get you right where you need to be.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the game very much last week. And I haven't heard any like actual like word or reports. But like from the stats, I mean, it didn't look like Mitch Trubisky was playing that bad. But apparently he was playing bad enough that they yanked that fucking cord out and put Nick Foles in.
I like the pick. I like the pick, but I gotta go with Indy this week though. What's it called? Phillip Rivers, DeForest Buckner playing outstanding defense. Honestly, that was a steal taking him. That added a lot of especially with Darius Leonard playing the way he did last year, turning a lot of heads. They started definitely helping out. So I gotta go with Indy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to ride with them. I'll put it this way: I'll ride with the trenches with Quentin Nelson more than anything. So then we have Buff. Man, there's some long trips this week. But so Buff flies out to Vegas. This is kind of a consensus, or I shouldn't say kind of. This is a consensus pick for us. Not only has Buffalo looked very good, their defense is looking good. And I think that this is one defense, especially in the NFL right now, that I'm not going to say he's going to get stopped, but I think they could potentially at least slow down not only the run game of Josh Jacobs, but then also kind of slow down Derek Carr to Waller. I don't think either of those elements are going to be eliminated just because that's very difficult. But I think the Buffalo Bills definitely have the defense to slow them down enough that their offense can keep it together.
I would have to go with Buffalo, like you said. That stuff on Diggs trade probably helped them. They seem like I guess it seemed like they're one star wide receiver away from being a solid team, and especially with Tom Brady leaving the division, maybe gives them some confidence or opens up them to fully play the way I don't know what way they play, or they just finally found their click. And I gotta go with Buffalo.
All right, and then so poor Philly has to fly out to San Fran. I mean, it's not funny, but it sucks. Philly is one of those teams that year in and year out is bit by the injury bug. There was a report earlier this week that the only active wide receiver that they had on their roster was Garrett Ward, I believe it is.
Or Greg Ward.
Greg Ward. I knew it was a G.
Mm-hmm.
But so Greg Ward, that's a converted quarterback, is the only wide receiver right now they have. I mean, obviously they're going to activate wide receivers prior to this game. But he was the only holdover from last week. Year in and year out, I feel like Philly gets depleted in their wide receiving core or their DB core. And even though also San Fran is depleted, a couple of their guys are coming back this week, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Kittle's back.
Yeah, I mean, but Philly's also looked very rough on top of all their other injuries. So obviously, as you can see, we went with the consensus pick of San Fran. And like I always say, again, those coast-to-coast games are usually a toss-up and also difficult. Might be a little bit easier during Corona right now, just because you don't have much else to kind of focus on. But, yeah, unfortunately, Philly's taking the L today.
Yeah, I gotta go with San Fran, like you said, George Kittle back. Yeah, Philly, honestly, it gets bit by the injury bug. But whenever they do have the people on the field, they also don't play up to par either. So I definitely got to go with San Fran at home, and yeah, that's my pick.
And then, at least as of right now, the last confirmed game for this weekend, this is going to be ATL Green Bay's, I think, the Monday night game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then you have obviously our last consensus pick, Green Bay hosting the Atlanta Falcons. At least for this time being, again, ATL just – I feel like they can't get out of their own way, unfortunately. Unless there's a very big righting of the ship, unfortunately, I think Dan Quinn's going to eventually take the L, and he's not going to be the Falcons' head coach at least through the end of the year, I don't think, especially if this continues to happen. I'd have to look it up. I don't know who Matt Ryan's backup is, but I wouldn't be surprised if they started looking outside of Matty Ice, just because I feel like the production's not there. And then with the leading rumors of the Falcons trying to shop Julio Jones, which I really don't believe is real, it's still just very shocking for ATL that they still can't get this right.
ATL, Atlanta just every year, it's like you think they're going to be good, and then, like, they just, like you said, they just fall apart. Like Matt Ryan.
Courtney had them going to the Super Bowl last year.
What's that?
I said Courtney had them going to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. I mean, the last time they were in the Super Bowl, they gave up they gave it up. So I mean,
Yeah.
they literally fall apart. That's all. Every year they fall apart. They start great or look great, and then they just like fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So I've been, so I've been looking into on my fantasy league this year. I have Calvin Ridley on my team. So I
Yeah.
think the big reason why they might be discounting Julio because I've honestly been looking at comparing points, and Calvin Ridley's put up way more points than Julio has this season. So I feel like you're going to realize, get to a point that Julio was Julio at one point, but is he still the same Julio now? That's the
Yeah.
biggest question. And you're starting to realize maybe not. And then you're starting to realize that whenever you see Calvin Ridley play the way he is, you're starting to realize, you just start to come to a point where it makes a sticky situation, and 9 times out of 10, you go with the young wheels.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely for sure. So obviously with everything else going on, Casey in New England's still a toss-up for this week. If at all, there might be a doubleheader on Monday, or we're going to have one of the first ever Tuesday games for the NFL. And then Pittsburgh, as we know, is postponed to the 25th. They did some shuffling around, and they're going to go with that. So I just saw this. So Damian made a comment saying that the Cardinals need to use Kenyon Drake more, which I agree. He's very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And especially you start getting him going with all the other pieces that they have, they'll be all right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I like Kenyon Drake because he's showing flashes of what he did at Alabama, which was kind of like being like a running back that's also a receiver, like a shifty guy out the backfield that can make people miss, that can get the jukes off and everything like that. So I feel definitely confidence in Kenyon Drake. He's definitely the guy.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Do you guys have anything else for this wonderful Sunday?
Do you think the NFL is taking Corona seriously or not?
So part of me feels like they took it serious, and now that the season's going, I can't say every organization isn't, but I feel that just like we talked about during the off season, that they didn't. I generally don't think that they have anything set in place as kind of like standards. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is like a play by ear kind of deal. And I honestly didn't think it was going to have this big of an effect. But now we're looking at it and saying, okay, well, fuck. We're now trying to change up schedules 4 weeks down the road so that we can have games. I honestly think that I just don't think they thought. If it was me, again, I still think that having bubble cities would be very difficult. I do think that the NFL, like we talked about with Courtney and on some of our roundtables, I do think that the NFL should have kind of mandated that owners pony up and like rent a plane for the season and have it cleaned like crazy. I think that they should have had the owners and made the players rent a hotel or facility or something like that, and that's where you do all your like. And again, it sucks, and I get it, but I also have obviously not on the same level as the NFL, but I've left my family to go play football and lived in a townhouse for 6 months. Like it's doable, especially for the millions of dollars that they make. Like I know Eric Ebron was talking about missing his son's birthday. I get it. It sucks. I would hate to miss my daughter's birthday, but if he was playing that Sunday anyway, he'd still miss it.
Yeah, I understand. When it comes to this Corona situation, I feel like I feel like eventually at a point when it came to turning the season back on, you had to realize that this was eventually going to happen. With all the amount of players and all that, you had to realize that eventually at one point this was going to happen. So you had to be prepared for what do you do if it happens. And I feel like the NFL, like they were prepared, but then when more teams got hit, and I feel like once more of like it started, I feel like they were cool once. Okay, a few players on both each team. All right, and then remember the Titans had that little outbreak. They're like, all right, and then then KC got some people. Then Cam Newton tested positive. Then they're like, then all these they basically got hit with an array of all this, all the stuff that they have to do. So I feel like at some point you kind of had to realize this was going to happen. But the NFL, I feel like they were prepared, but I don't feel like they were like fully prepared of like an outbreak if it happened or more teams. I feel like they were prepared for just one team. They're gonna isolate that individual team and then handle it one on one, not handling multiple situations all at once, while still managing to keep the season pushing at the same time. So I feel like when it came to this like Corona stuff, like the owners probably didn't take it as much serious. Like I feel like you should have like a hotel or something like that because at the end of the day, the players' families are still out doing whatever they do. So whether the players don't get it from each other, if they get it from like a family member bringing it out to them, so then they bring it back to the team. Like it could happen from anywhere at this point.
Yeah, so they should have just taken like advice from what they were looking at, like what the NBA was doing, and MLB. I mean, MLB was a little bit different, but NBA really I don't think they had any positive cases. Did they?
No, NBA and NHL, I think. Obviously, NBA is still playing, but NHL, I believe, finished their bubble playoff with no confirmed cases.
Right.
I feel like the only thing I wish is that football could do that, but there's not really a lot of places where there's football field upon football field upon football field. Like if you go down south, like in Florida, but you'll see baseball field upon like acres of just baseball fields. Same thing in like around some areas with basketball courts. Just like basketball court next to basketball court next to basketball court. It's definitely way easier. I feel like with basketball and like baseball because it is like a little bit less personnel and everybody like that. I wish the NFL could do something. I would think the only way I would think maybe you just do it by division and then everyone just plays a different day of the week. Unfortunately, they're not all going to be on Sundays, but that is what it is for the time being. Unfortunately, you might get football every day of the week. Who knows? That could be a way to make it work. But I feel like that's one way they could do or something about it.
The one thing I wish I would have seen was the NFL build almost like a COVID week into the end of the season, or two, honestly. That way teams weren't getting again, you can't obviously you can't prevent an outbreak. It's gonna happen eventually, unfortunately. But for the Steelers, now you have a week 4 bye week, and now you have to pay 13 weeks straight. That kind of sucks. And it would be nice. Obviously, it would suck for some teams. Now you get 2 bye weeks, and only some teams would only have 1, and have to play at the end of the season. But if there was no outbreak and all you'd have to do is flex those playoff schedules back. And like I said, my grand thing, what I wish I would have seen out of the NFL was just simply, again, have the owners or figure something out. You guys find these players like nuts. And I know they have hotel sponsorships. Rent a plane. The hard part is I haven't been to very many other cities with NFL teams, so I can't talk about very many other cities. But I know Pittsburgh, obviously from the Pittsburgh Steelers facility to the stadium's not very far.
No,
you could have easily bought or rented one of the hotels down in Southside Works right by your training facility. The players slept unfortunately, like I said, that's where you are, dude. That's where you're staying for 18 weeks. You literally go from the hotel to the training facility. We'll have food prepared for you. We'll make it as comfortable as possible, but I mean, that kind of isolation would have been probably the only thing that I could have seen something actually work. But again, we're here. We're dealing with it. Like I said, hopefully, with this going on, it kind of gets teams to figure their shit out a little bit better. So going down the road through the season, we don't deal with this as much. But anybody else have anything else? Cool. So as always, check out Bombshell Bowling. As we said at the jump of the show, it's fall. Again, especially up here in Pittsburgh. I know we have two staff guys down in Florida, but get your hoodies. They're nice. They're comfortable. Obviously, want to stay warm, but then be able to rep your favorite sports show. So go ahead, check out Bombshell Bowling / Loudmouth Sports Talk. We also still have T-shirts available. Again, in my opinion, we're putting out great product for great prices. Just go ahead, check them out. Also, if you're in any kind of a market for any kind of bowling apparel or anything like that, or again, you just want a stylish new mask for the pandemic, Miss Michelle can hook you up. She has her own neck garters also. So check her out. And like we said earlier with the Colts, run the damn ball. You guys have a good Sunday. I'm going to go to work, sell some phones, and watch some football.
All right, man.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.